Hello guys, Freedom Watchdog here. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about businesses which you can set up and thrive with in a post-lockdown world we find ourselves in. Now this is by no means an extensive list of businesses which you can set up, but hopefully it'll get you thinking about some of the opportunities that these unfortunate events have given us. The main thing to bear in mind when you hear these ideas is to keep an open mind. And the reason being is because if you have a closed mind, then ideas will stop coming to you. Keep an open mind and I'm sure you'll get plenty of ideas. And once you've heard this list, it might be worth you making your own list while bearing in mind some of the things I've spoken about today on this video. And remember, with any business, whatever you choose to do, your success really depends on you. You know, how far you're going to follow it through, how much you believe in yourself, and how determined you are to actually make it happen. So, let's get into it. I'm going to split the video into 3 parts. First part will be about businesses you can set up with little or no money at all. Second part will be businesses that you need a bit more capital to set up to start off with. And the third part will be businesses that you should avoid and why you should avoid them. So let's get into it then. Now there's no doubt in the next few years people are going to find that the money just isn't going as far as what it normally does. I've already spoke about on my previous video about inflation and deflation. If you want to check that out, I explain everything why that'll be the case. But there's some things that they're going to have to spend money on regardless. And there's also other things like small luxuries which they just simply won't cut back on. If it's a small luxury like something that costs 10, 20, 30 pounds a month for doing and they get some kind of enjoyment out of it, then the chances are they're going to carry on doing it. And when I say small luxuries, I'm talking about things like getting a haircut. Maybe they've have cleaners to come and clean the house, so that's an option. And they may even pay for services like a gardener to come and maintain the garden. Now you might snob these kind of jobs at first, but actually if you build up your customer base quite well in your area, and it's quite easy to do nowadays with things like Facebook, you can easily get a brand out there, and if you get busy you can pick up traction quite easily. And the key here would be something, like I say, which is a small expense for most people every single month. And it's somewhat just like a little bit of a luxury. Maybe, like I say, a haircut, which obviously people need to do anyway. So if they don't have someone they know that can do it, they're going to need it doing anyway. Or things like gardening, home services, even window cleaning or house cleaning. We've even found businesses like dog sitting or dog walking have actually thrived recently, because even though a lot of people are working from home, they still need people to take the dog for a walk because they're still stuck to that computer for 8 hours a day. And even more so if they've got a Zoom call on the go, an important meeting, they don't want the dog barking in the background, do they? So all home services like that. Another thing to think about is, because more people are spending more time at home now, they're looking around and they want the house to be nice. Probably a lot nicer than what it normally would be if they go to work, because they're stuck there all day now. During the first lockdown, people spent a lot of money on the house, decorating, doing all little minor repairs, all stuff like that, to kind of bring it to standard because they're spending so much time there. And that's a trend which I can definitely see carrying on. Even if we hit a major recession, if people are still in work and working from home somewhat, then they're going to want to keep that up. And like I say, it's all about building up your brand locally. And that also leads me on to something else. If you've already got a skilled trade or a semi-skilled trade, maybe you've been working on site around the country, and now because of certain regulations which are coming in, it's got you thinking about, will I be allowed on site maybe if I don't want to do certain things? So maybe it's time for you to set up locally and start building up a little bit of a reputation locally. Start building up a brand. You could run it alongside of your other work. Start picking up customers in your area. Start getting reviews on Facebook, on Google, things like that. And it could be the start of something good. So, you know, if you can find your way around a toolbox, then that's something that you should also bear in mind. Now, another type of business you can do, or that you should think about and bear in mind, is anything you can do from your house. So any kind of online business. Maybe you've got a hobby that you're particularly good at. Maybe you can make certain things. Maybe it's crafts. Maybe it's like unique furniture or unique woodworking products, which you'll be able to sell on things like Etsy. We all know there's going to be a decline in retail stores now. Everyone's shopping online anyway. And if you can offer something unique, something you're good at, then why not do it from home? And, you know, if you're a lady, maybe you like cooking a lot more in the kitchen, maybe you love baking. Can you set up like a baking business? Can you bake cakes and deliver them locally? I've noticed in my area, there is a rise of cake shops. If they're doing well enough to pay for those overheads, then if you could start it from home, obviously you'll have to make sure that you get the council to inspect it so you can get your certificate to say you can, you know, do it from home. Then why not look into that? It's all about for anything like that, it's all about getting your reputation well online. Get established online, get plenty of reviews, and you could well be quids in. Now, talking about quids, let's start looking at businesses which you can spend a few quid on to get started. They're going to cost more than those, smaller service jobs, if you like, to get started. Maybe you've got a bit of cash, but you're out of work and you're looking at something that you can use it for. Maybe investing isn't your thing, and you'd just rather be working. Now, here's a few ideas for you to fire up your imagination. The first one is what I mentioned on one of my previous videos, is commercial property over the next couple of years is going to be incredibly cheap. Now, I wouldn't suggest opening up a shop as such, unless it's something that you would be able to stay open during lockdowns, because who knows, there may be more. But what about buying a commercial property which you could convert into residential? Certain commercial property in the UK you can convert into residential without the need for planning permission. So, you know, if you've got a few quid aside, and commercial property as well is a lot cheaper than residential. So if you've got the money aside to do it, you can create a business plan, you're good on the tools, or you know people that can maybe do a lot of the work at a much fairer price, then that could definitely be something to think about. I think that's a huge opportunity. So, you know, if you've got the money aside to do it, it could be a great thing, especially if you're going to cash flow it rather than sell straight away. Now, another thing to think about is we all know about the massive disruption we've got right now with HGV drivers and supply chains in general, really. The cost of shipping has gone right up. That's international shipping. It's gone up about 4 times on average. That's what it was when I last looked anyway. So the cost of shipping food and products which we're importing to Britain has gone right up, and I can't see it going down, to be honest, anytime soon. You know, the cost of energy is going right up. It's probably going to go up further, and that's going to add on to product cost. So is there anything that you can produce right here in the UK which is normally imported? And that also includes food. Now, you might be thinking that it'd actually be incredibly expensive to go out there and buy land and, you know, set up a farm. And it would be expensive, but there are ways you can cut down on your costs dramatically. The first one being you can actually rent the land. So if you can rent land, that's a massive, reduced capital cost to start with. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm a farmer and I know all the costs involved. But starting off, is there something it could even be like a side hustle if you want, or a side business, because it would be seasonal. What crops could you grow which are normally imported? So, you know, what can you grow in summer which is normally getting imported? That's something to definitely bear in mind, because people are always going to need food, and if they're struggling to get certain foods because of all the supply chain issues I just mentioned, well then that just means you can charge a higher premium for your homegrown products, whatever it is. Now, something else to bear in mind, is there any products you can physically make which there may be demand for? Now, I'm not talking about products which are cheap that you can just, things like pens or, consumables which are made for next to nothing in China. But maybe things like furniture, I did mention it before, you could do it yourself, start off from home. If you've got a few quid to spend and you're starting to notice maybe next year that there's issues with products getting imported, certain furniture products, then maybe it would be worth setting up. Maybe if you're not skilled in it yourself, find someone who is, a couple people that are. Obviously you need to source your materials and all that other stuff. But it doesn't even have to be furniture, it could be something else. What do people pay a premium for? A lot of businesses will be going under in the next 2 to 3 years. And if you've got money to invest, you can pretty much bet your life on it. There'll be lots of businesses where the owners will be selling them for next to nothing, and they might already have stock. But the reason they'll just have to get rid of it is they just can't carry on running it. They can't afford to pay their overheads. And at the end of the day, no one wants to buy that business because, it's not working out. Now, a lot of these businesses end up going to business brokers or business liquidators, and they literally pay next to nothing for those businesses and the stock to sell on. So you could actually be doing them a favour by putting in an offer first. And, with us having the luxury of being able to get online now and everyone sees it, you can put adverts out there on Facebook and things like that and attract those business owners to you. If you've got a business owner that's got, maybe 30 grand's worth of stock, but they have to sell up like this month because they literally can't pay the bill. A business liquidator might only offer, a few grand for the stock. It might be worth 30. You could come in, maybe offer a few grand more, and literally double your money. Even if you sell the stock at half price, you could literally double your money if you're willing to put the work in and sell it all online. So that's definitely something to think about as well. One thing I'll mention as well, make sure you're buying the business stock and not the business itself. And the reason being, the business itself may be up to its eyeballs in debt, and you don't want to take on those liabilities. So make sure that you're not buying the business itself unless you do actually want the business itself. But this is stuff you need to be aware of. If you just want the stock, then just buy the stock and make sure you get something in writing. Make sure you're not buying the business itself, because you could be opening yourself up to quite a lot of liability there. Now, there's definitely businesses that you should be staying away from, because unless there's a serious change in government anytime soon, then it just looks like we're faced with certain trends whether we like it or not. Now, some of those businesses which I'd stay away from would be restaurants and any business which relies on someone coming into the premises, because there's going to be all kinds of regulation coming in and it could just make it a nightmare. If certain passes come in, and you might be faced with, massive fines if you're found serving people that don't have that pass. Well then, thanks to that regulation, you will be heavily limited on who you can serve. You might find 30% less people will come in than what they normally would. And if you're running something like a restaurant with fixed costs, you need as many people to come in as possible. And when I say fixed costs, your staff is fixed, or most of your overheads are fixed. So you need as many people to come in to make your money. Other businesses I'd avoid are any business which heavily rely on imports, because as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have rising shipping costs. I can't see it slowing down. And maybe a rise in product costs as well, because as all these commodities get more expensive, products are going to be more expensive to produce. Now, you could keep those costs somewhat down if you do something like I mentioned before and you can manufacture it here on home soil for a reasonable price. But if you're importing something that you're selling on to someone else, well then you've got absolutely no control of those costs. Say if you're importing the latest Christmas toy, for example, which you're going to sell on for Christmas, you've got no control whatsoever how much it's going to cost you in order to get that product to you before you sell it on. So yeah, there's a few things you should bear in mind, guys, if you're thinking of setting up a business in this post-lockdown world we find ourselves in, and that's definitely some things you should think through before you do so. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe. I'm sure there's a big number of things that I've left out, but I just wanted to give you a quick list to get you thinking those through. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.